Hello everybody, and today we are going to be checking out a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 13 of our series, and if you did not see the last episode, well, let me recap it for you. We saw the collapse of Albania, increased exploring into the British Isles, the collapse of Bangladesh, and a whole bunch of other small events, so if you have not seen the last episode, then go check it out. But in this episode, we're going to see the pacing of the series ramp up, because over the last couple episodes, there have been a lot of very small things happening, and that's always great for small stuff to happen, but, gonna want to bring up the pacing. If you guys do enjoy today's scenario, then please consider liking and subscribing, and on that note, and with that idea in our heads, we can go into today's scenario. Now first, I'm going to go up here to Europe. Now this place is very underdeveloped in my opinion for the episode number that we're on. We're on episode, 13, and this is what Europe looks like? Not on my watch. So we're going to pace it a little bit better. The Russians and the Baltic states are going to explore this little excursion of unexplored land, and eventually they're going to get up here to St. Petersburg and Finland. We see Denmark, in partnering with France, is going to go up here and discover a lot of the Nordic areas. But the French aid was definitely a lot more focused over here in the British Isles, where they are going to be discovering a lot of northern England. They attempt to go northern in Scotland, but there are a lot of mountains. But, eventually the mountains will succumb to exploration. Very specific and small envoys are going to be sent into the Nordics, and this is mainly because this area, like I said, in Scotland is very mountainous, but eventually it would become explored at one point, and at this point, the entire basic, Norwegian area is going to be explored. Sorry if that sentence was not very well put together. But next, we're going to see the Danish go through a little bit of a policy shift. Their king down here in the capital is going to get assassinated. Yeah, wow, yep. He's dead. And in his place is going to be his tyrannical son. His tyrannical son is going to put people to work in discovering and conquering the Nordics. This is mainly why we saw they were able to be discovered so fast, but now we're going to see subsequently how that leads to more conquering. And at this point, their empire in the Nordics is absolutely massive. They're going to move west and colonize the western coast of Norway, and we see them conquering the eastern area of Sweden and both of these islands. Now, if you have this and that, people there no like that. So people there no like that, they say they no like that. In summary, with intelligible English, they are going to rebel away. The Norwegians are going to rebel away. These two rebellion pockets might be a little bit different in their policies and kind of, outskirts of their influence. Maybe they have different opinions on how that should go. But once they link up, they are able to kind of congeal their ideas into one and make it into a commonality that they can use against the Danish. So with Norway breaking away, we see Sweden breaking away as well. Now, the king is shocked for some reason. He's like, whoa, you guys are supposed to love me. You're like, I'm tyrannical and I help the country. But, no one likes you. Everybody point and laugh at the king. No one likes the king. We're going to see another rebellion outbreak down here in the south. And at this point, Danish envoys are being sent back to the peninsula because they just can't handle this. And eventually, the division of the Nordic peninsula can begin and also end, subsequently with it looking like this. And these are kind of just where borders met, so now we can actually take a look at where the borders are going to be officially. And this is what we see our peace treaty looking like. Disgusting. As you can see, the Danish really left these guys to their own devices, as they have now elected local towns and areas to kind of vote whether they want to be a part of the new nation. Of course, more counties over here will want to be a part of Sweden, but then maybe there are some towns that are owned by some wealthy people that want to be a part of Sweden, maybe because of tax rates or something like that. And maybe they wanted that instead of being with the Norwegian country, so instead they were kind of just opted to join the Swedish country, which if you have enough money, you are able to do. And that is kind of the case with all of these areas. But at this point, there are no major cities apparently. This is why I need to update this map in a new live stream I'm going to be doing. So let's just spawn one for each nation. And of those 3 major cities, all 3 will be upgraded into capitals. Alright, now we have Sweden, South Sweden, and Norway. So immediately Norway is going to kind of fix this situation by just doing that. But once they do that, Sweden is going to do this. And then Norway, oh my god. This is so cursed, holy hell. I mean, from now on, the border should look fine. It's just these countries had a lot of conflicting ideals. But these guys are a little sad because, you know, they're down here and they can't expand anywhere. So here's what they're gonna do. The king, he has a son. And that son is gonna go down here to these areas. He doesn't like his father. He wants to establish a new nation under his own jurisdiction. But then the father convinces him to claim the land for his nation, and in return, he will love him. And the son, it's really sad, and the son just kind of relinquishes all of his potential for his father's love. And now southern Sweden has a little bit of a colony over here in Poland. This South Teal Germany country is going to expand over now bordering this area, so is the Baltic country. And that is kind of just to get a little bit more of a trade network going. But we also see Red France coming in here, and they're going to take some territory. And Denmark's like, no, we want this territory. The tyrannical king is still here, by the way. Also, I think Europe has a little bit too much red, so I'm going to change these guys' color. If I do that, it looks disgusting. Alright, you know what? That works. But like I said earlier, the Danish king was still tyrannical and still very power hungry, so he's going to send his envoys on a very long ruling journey over here to Scotland. And they're going to make a landing. Eventually, they do claim this for the Danish crown, and the French are like, yeah, no, we're actually going to take more of Wales. And then eventually, it just turns into a scramble for the British Isles. Eventually, the Western French are going to get this. I guess the Beneluxians are going to get this territory, and the Danish will get the rest. We also see the Irish claiming the rest of Ireland, and we also see Augusto fixing these borders because they're horrendous. Alright, that looks a bit better. But now with the British Isles being divided up, actually kind of ironically among foreign powers, we're going to see Central Europe. It's time to get discovered and conquered. And when I say discovered, you're like, Augusto, all this area is discovered. It is not! So Italian envoys are just going to, yeah, that's good. And now we are going to see a council of representatives from the Italian, Catalonian, French, Beneluxian, and German country. They're all going to come to a consensus, and that consensus is going to be reached in the capital of the Red French country. And that consensus is going to be each country's claims over Europe. The Catalonians, they speak first because they're like the border state of Europe. Everyone is okay with them getting this, but they're also just going to work out a border with the French country. This does not have any lore. This is just me realizing the borders are really bad. Alright, and speaking of the French country, they're going to get a big old amount of territory. No one opposes this. The French are going to make their claim over here in these areas. The Germans are going to make their claim looking along the lines of this. And the Romans, they are going to take this territory. So if we color that in, it goes from this to this. Now, you might see something wrong. What the hell is this? Well, the European representatives are just going to turn into a new country. It's awful. It's bad. Why would you even do that to a country? It's like politically, they're not going to be okay. But this new country needs a capital, which will go right here. And yeah, Europe. Down over here in Croatia, they're going to start expanding, but I guess they kind of broke away for anti-expansionists type government, so what are you going to do? The Romans take a little bit of territory, looking along the lines of this. But the country taking the most amount of territory is going to be this dark green one. They're just going to go ahead and just take all of this. I'm sure they'll be able to hold on to this in the future. Don't worry about it. Sorry, I'm very indecisive. But going over here, the Danube country. If you remember, they were very fixated on encompassing the entire Danube. And eventually they were like, alright, if we keep expanding, we're going to collapse. But now that's not really too much of an issue. So they're starting to branch out along the rivers. Until eventually they look like this. The Germans are just going to go ahead and go into here. But we actually see a rebellion occurring in the Baltic country, and that's going to form a Polish country. Now, this wasn't really more of a violent, bloodsheddy revolution, more as to like a country that was just kind of easing away from the Baltics, and they just decided to split, and they will take the remainder of this territory. And yeah, now we have Europe looking a little something like this, at least the western area, because the eastern area is still pretty, not filled in. There are definitely going to be missions to send people to discover this area, but no one really has any interest in claiming it. But wait, the Baltic country says they want to do something. What do you want to do, little guy? Oh, you say you worked out a treaty with Russia. How's that gonna look? Aw, such a cutie. Holy hell, you got massive. Well, it turns out no one really wants this territory, so if with no opposition, then you can just go ahead and take it. And the Baltic country really took that to a T. But going over here from Europe, we are now going to go over here to Central Asia. We see a group of people is going to go down here and just kind of pierce into the Himalayas. And everyone's like, whoa, holy guacamole, how do you do that? He's so cool. And then they're going to establish their own country. The pinnacle of coolness. Eventually, Himalaya go bye-bye. And these guys become big. How big? That big. Alright, new underscore country. And now people are like, okay, this area can't be too hard to discover, and then they go in, and actually, this is a little bit of my fault because I realized that this area is not a part of the Himalayas. The Himalayas are like this, and this area is like not a part of the Himalayas. So, bada boom, bada bam. And with the Himalayas shrinking increasingly, they're just gonna go ahead and die. Humanity has enough technology to assume that with like wind currents, there are no lakes here, and eventually they're able to expand their knowledge about it, and eventually that leads to white. A lot of countries are going to take this and they're going to be like, whoa, we can expand now. So a lot of these Mongolian states are going to expand. And I might be a little bit counterintuitive from their existence because the Mongol states, the big Mongol state was very expansionist. And these guys broke away because of that, but you know, old habits never die. These guys are going to expand the most. They expand like a freaking lot. The red team is going to go ahead and just expand a lot as well. And you might be, Augusto, why aren't they expanding towards China? That's because China want land too. And boom. Yep. China big China. The lime team is going to be next to submit a claim. And also, these claims aren't really happening with like a consensus of everybody. They're just kind of happening. But the South Chinese pink team will claim this. The North purple team, like north of the pink team, they take this! Bangladesh, with a lot of support from India, is just going to go ahead and expand their borders massively. Ah, yes, the red team. What do they do now? Well, of course they're going to take territory, but surprisingly little amount of territory. Purple team takes territory as well, but once again, a very surprisingly small amount of territory. And yeah, Afghanistan's actually going to take a lot of territory. Now, actually, I'm really bad at geography, and I just realized this is Persia, so Persia takes this. And yeah, a general consensus among nations has been reached that we just want the world to become more explored. Holy. And everyone is going to be pursuing that consensus majorly. These guys will be expanding over to their northeast because they realize that these people are expanding here, but now they've kind of reached their limit on expansion because they got really big really quickly. They're going to put their capital here so it can be very close to the economic prosperity of Kazakhstan. And yeah, now we have very small white here. We see the entire Kola Peninsula is discovered along with Finland, and Russian envoys are going to be sent into, well, the Russian tundra. I assume all of this area has a pretty similar climate to each other, so it shouldn't be too difficult if humanity already kind of has the technology to go into these areas. But Hokkaido is going to work on discovering the areas of Kamchatka, and eventually they're able to expand their claim tenfold. No, it's more like 2 or 5-fold. And eventually their colony becomes so big that it is producing a lot of economic output. And what you do with economic output, you grow country. So, like I said a little earlier in the series, that this area, the northern area here, was developed by Korea, and the south area was developed by China. China and Korea had very different policies than they do now, but back then, the Koreans were more hell-bent on expansion, and the Chinese were more hell-bent on development. So, these guys, not really being liked by their neighbors, they're just gonna get pummeled. And yeah, yeah. So Hokkaido is just going to absolutely demolish these areas. And their military is very strong to the point where Japan is forced to surrender. And this capital, by the looks of what I'm doing, is not going to be very good for northern Japan. So now we can see their demise. Alright, this is what our peace treaty looks like. And I don't think you can really see this line. But, yep. And actually, I kind of like the troop color of Japan better. So we're just going to go ahead and switch it a little bit. So it's just a little bit lighter. And yeah, that will do it for today's scenario. I hope you guys did enjoy. I tried to kind of keep up the pacing of this video because, well, the pacing has been a little slow in my opinion. But tell me if you want me to make it faster or if you want me to make it slower. I can definitely do both. But on that note, I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.